Hi, everybody. It's the CC and JT Amateur. We're doing a bonus podcast today because of things that happened over the weekend. But starting off, CC.
And JT.
And we are starting, we had a podcast done on Sunday. We were in the process of editing it. And then we got the wonderful news that we've been picked, or you'd been picked, excuse me, because you're the woman in this duo. Women in Podcasting Award. So,
right.
Woo. Again, round of applause again.
Thank you.
That's awesome. You rock.
And to be perfectly honest, we already knew before Sunday, but we were not allowed to release the news. So the news came out on Sunday that we could actually talk about it.
And boy, we did press releases because that's what you do. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten some really good, nice responses. Thank you to people that went out of their way to thank us and congratulate us. And we appreciate you. And it feels good to have that little bit of validation.
It also feels very surreal because it was a People's Choice Award, so yeah, it's really exciting.
It is exciting, but what happened is like I said, we had really a very good podcast. What I thought was on a Sunday, and we sort of had to check it because of priorities. When you get publicity, you ride that you ride that horse, so to speak, and. So what happened? What did we talk about? Well, we talked about ZOEY and what was happening with ZOEY. And that's that's the title of this podcast, What Happened to ZOEY? Because if you follow us on social media, you'll see that we were starting to advertise the release. We started to advertise the book cover.
The pre-sale.
Mm-hmm. We were winding up for another book release for, the pre-sale. The cover was going to be a week. This is Wednesday, October 23rd. So
it would have been tomorrow, right?
Would have been tomorrow. The book cover is going to be tomorrow. The book cover reveal is going to be tomorrow. A week from tomorrow would have been the pre-sale.
Yes.
And then Black Friday, the Friday between Thanksgiving, right after Thanksgiving, would have been the release.
Which this year, Thanksgiving is late, so it would have been the last Friday of November.
So I think it would have been like the 29th or something like that.
But it's like the last Friday of November.
And none of that's going to happen. And a couple things happened because of that, and we were going to explain that, and we're going to explain that now. Mm-hmm. We're going to explain that now. Two things happened, and we're going to just say, for one, it was real life.
Yes. Real life happens.
We're not going to do that deep dive because you have your real life, we have our real life. Enough said.
Things happen.
But the other thing that happened was I had a wonderful beta readers, just wonderful beta readers. I think just a squadron. I'm Air Force, so I say squadron. You don't say fleet, you say squadron. I had a squadron of beta readers, and and it's all of them just gave some, and I keep using this word, so I'll try another one. Excellent feedback, and the feedback kept getting more and more complicated the deeper and deeper things got, especially in the book. And so, what happened to ZOEY? Well, ZOEY happened, and now I gotta, I don't want to say I have to start over because there's 70,000 words that are out there, but the book needs more love than can be given to make the deadline.
Okay.
I'm not going to make these deadlines.
To be honest, I think JT is being a little hard on the book and on himself. The feedback was intense and in depth. I think a few minor changes will really improve the book. I think at this point in time you're feeling very overwhelmed by the feedback that you received. We went through one of the beta readers' notes yesterday and actually talked out the book. And I personally, based on my experience, think that it really won't take as much as JT feels it will take to fix things. It's just, while we were having our discussion about this yesterday, one of the things that we've mentioned in the past is I am one of his beta readers. However, we are very similar in thought processes. If one of us says something, the other one usually understands completely what the person means.
That comes with 42 years of...
42 years of marriage, similar upbringing. We have our own language. So what happens is the outside beta readers, the people who are not as familiar with us, bring up some very good points that we needed to clarify a few things because our language doesn't make sense to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our own shorthand, our own language. And I think this is true of anyone. And this is something very important to remember when you're writing. You are not writing just for yourself. You want your readers to be able to understand what you're trying to say to them. They're going to interpret some things in their own way, but you have to at least be clear enough that they have some idea of what you're trying to express. And I think that's where ZOEY is right now.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, it's almost like I wrote it for her, because, you know, we do have that language. So things probably, let me ask you this. So as we were doing the beta read yesterday, and the other beta reads, were you, let me see, I'm not sure I want to say this. Were you surprised at some of the feedback, or were you were surprised in what way?
I was surprised that, like I said, things that seemed perfectly clear to me, because when I read through the book, I understand exactly what you were trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, for the most part, a lot of the feedback is about ZOEY herself as a character and how ZOEY comes across to readers. And this particular beta reader had a different take on ZOEY's personality than I did, based on, I think, our similar personalities. We both felt that ZOEY was projected one way, but this other beta reader saw ZOEY as something completely different and something that probably would not have been enjoyable for readers, not a sympathetic character. And in our case, we did not see that. So that was the biggest surprise to me, I think.
Yeah, it's, and I want to say that I'm not put off by what this person wrote, but this was exceptionally valuable and critical, because, you know, we need to hear this, you know, this blunt kind of feedback for our books to be effective. Now, as CC has recently learned, you can't please everybody. You can't write to please everybody. So this book is not going to be for everybody, but it's going to be for a lot of people. It's got a lot of value to it, especially to what I hoped is Nevadans. I hope that I represent our, you know, our home state.
As in the sheriff books.
Yes.
And these are some of JT's most popular books. As we've mentioned before, a lot of people really enjoy the way Nevada is portrayed in this book. And ZOEY is very similar. It also has law enforcement undertones, but without going too deeply into it, it's a fictional part of Nevada.
Yeah.
But the fictional part of Nevada actually represents a lot of Nevada.
Yeah.
And it's the parts of Nevada that a lot of people outside of the state are not familiar with, because most people think of Reno or Las Vegas when you think of Nevada. These are more the rural areas where a lot of interesting things happen. It seems desolate and remote, but there's still life going on out there. And that's what these books and ZOEY will be representing.
Yeah, and it's Nevada rural, and it's a rural lifestyle, which I don't think gets a lot of visibility in the world. And it does talk a little bit about the rural lifestyle. So I think it's a good book. I think it's going to do as well as our other books. I hope it does better than that, but I'm bummed.
Well, I still think we're on the verge of doing something.
Yeah. But I want to talk about the other thing that impacted the release of ZOEY, and that is an over-optimistic release schedule.
Yes.
An over-optimistic release schedule. And ZOEY will be more, I've published more than 10 books. You know, the kinds of, it varies. So I've published more than 10 books, so it's not like I'm a neophyte when I came up with this schedule. But I did not plan for the amount of feedback that I got. And so, you know, so I thought, you know, well, we can do the pre-release or the pre-sale, you know, in a month, which is when I made these decisions.
Right. And we were already in the editorial process with the outside company that we use for this. So it's not like we just randomly decided we're going to release on this day and then send it to the editor. That wasn't what happened.
Yeah, the schedule that I think that we set up with all good intentions at the time that we set it up was valid, but then when the feedback came in, the schedule that we set up did not give me enough time to make the changes that needed to be made, or to discard those suggested changes. Remember, folks, your name is on the cover of that book, so you could have 100 beta readers and you could have 100 documents for feedback, but at the end of the day, you know, my name is on the cover, so I'm responsible for everything from front to back. So it's up to me. But even so, it was clear that there was going to be a heavy lift, a stressful lift, and the schedule that we'd set up was too ambitious. Was just simply too ambitious. So the lesson learned here is before we start talking about releases and stuff like that, we need to have the major portions of the editing process done. Based on previous experience, I thought it was a good schedule. And it synced up with Nevada Day, and it synced up with Black Friday, but it turns out that's not to be the case. And I don't want to say something like, well, that's on me, because technically it is. But it wasn't a bad mistake. It was, and I don't even know if it was a mistake.
It's not a mistake.
It
was, like you said, we were being overambitious.
Yeah.
And that's something that is a difficult part of the writing process, because we all do have our own schedules when it comes to how long it takes us to write a draft. Usually a book will go through multiple drafts through editing and the beta read and all of that process. So knowing how long that process takes can vary from book to book. And in this case, it turned out we were way over optimistic. It may not at this point even come out in 24.
Yeah, we still haven't settled on the release date and the cover release and things like that. So right now, ZOEY is kind of suspended, waiting on me to make the changes. But the good news is while I look at this chore that I have to sit down and do, the good news is the book is 90% done. I keep saying that phrase, but really once I do these edits, that's pretty close to the final product.
Yes.
It's going to go back for proofing and things like that one more time to make sure they catch all the the comma and balance the quotation marks. But it's very close to being done. And while this is all going on, I have the prequels to the Serving Salvation.
And that is another thing. So this book was released on September 4th.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were talking about the pre-sale for ZOEY on October 31st. So that's like 2 books in 2 months.
Yeah.
And some people can do that. And especially if you do have a lot of experience, it's probably easier to do back-to-back-to-back releases. But it's not just writing the book. As you said, you're working on the prequels, and you've been working on the prequels while ZOEY has been in the editing queue. So writers can have multiple projects going on, and the prequels may be coming up pretty quickly after ZOEY.
Yeah.
And it's a very delicate balance of figuring out where in the process you are with these different projects to make sure that they are all released in a reasonable time frame.
Yeah, and something that CCI keep reminding ourselves, but we keep forgetting, is that we are the masters, mistresses of our own fate. We don't need to be doing things so quickly, so fast.
Right.
But the flip side is more product. If the product is sitting on the shelf gathering dust, it's not doing anybody any good. So it's just like a business thing. If it's in the storeroom, then it's not out there where it needs to be to get sold. So it's again, people. People go to Barnes & Noble or places like that, they pick up a book and they say, hey, this is fascinating, this is good. And they are really, when they're holding that book, they're holding the tip of the iceberg. They're holding the tip of the iceberg. For it to get to Barnes & Noble is an incredibly complicated process. Yeah. And even to get to this table here and to get out on the 5 platforms is a long process. And if we writers do our jobs right, people don't even need to care about the rest of the iceberg. People don't need to worry about that.
It's a little frustrating, and I'm sure all writers understand this, is we put so much blood, sweat, and tears and time and effort into our writing, and then readers, especially if they love a book, they may pick up your book and read it in a day. That book may have been 1 year or more of your life of writing and editing and proofreading and cover design and all of that. So you're putting all of those hours into that book, and somebody just gobbles it down. It always makes me think of a big holiday meal. Spend the entire day, slaving over a hot oven. You're so excited. You put it out there. Everybody goes, oh, that's beautiful. And then 5 minutes later, you've got just debris all over the table that you have to clean up. So the writing process is very similar to that, and people need to, readers especially, I know most readers do understand that if they really like a particular writer and their work, they're going to be fine with waiting for the next release. And independent publishing, the authors tend to release more quickly probably than traditional publishing, because traditional publishing is a whole different ballgame. So as writers, we're trying to get the product out, as independent writers, I should say, we're trying to get our product out to help, if we do have a following, to help our readers, not have to wait quite as long for their next fix, basically. And so we're trying to do our best, but we're also understanding that people don't want to wait that long.
Yeah, and it's a struggle. It really is. I mean, poor CC over here has been trying to write in her 2 books, trying to get her 2 pieces of product out. And aside from the drama that's over on this side of the table, and I am such a drama queen, but there's everything else going on, quote unquote, real life. And we're trying to set up a business, and so we're in meetings with that, and we're trying to find help. There are these time sucks, and I know that I don't mean to make this sound like this is a woe is me type of situation, but full-time writing is a full-time job. It's not just something where, okay, well, today I think I'll just get out 3,000 words. Okay, I'm done for the day. Oh, I worked so hard. It's not that.
Well, and that's the other thing that you bring up a good point, because I watch videos occasionally about well-known authors to see what their writing schedule is like. And a lot of these well-known authors will say things like, well, I get up at 6 or 7 a.m. and I do a little bit of this and that, and then I write for 3 or 4 hours, and then I'm done for the day. And they may edit their previous day's work in the afternoon or something. But these people many of them are traditionally published, so they have that whole structure already behind them, and that allows them the freedom to pretty much just write, because they don't have to worry about scheduling the editors and the cover design and all of that extra stuff. Whereas with the little mom and pop shop that we are basically everybody in that traditional publishing house.
Yeah, and
everybody.
but the flip side of that is remember that people like Uncle Steve, they have to sign contracts like this, and so they have so many obligations of their time because of these contracts. Whereas independent publishers like mom and pop shops, we have more freedom than we have more freedom than we think we do.
Yes.
And so we have more flexibility, more freedom. So it's a balance. So, and what does CC and I want? We just want the standard rich and famous contract, mostly the standard rich contract, rich and famous. Okay.
And if you're not aware of what we're referring to when we say that, that goes back to the first Muppet movie, where they were all trying to get to Hollywood to get the standard rich and famous contract. And the whole big joke is at the end of the movie, they walk in and the producer director, Orson Welles, says, oh my gosh, I've got to sign you. Here's the contract. So that's our little joke, is that, by doing all this, putting all this work in, and throughout the course of that movie, they do go through a series of challenges and adventures. So it's not like, it was easy for them by any means.
Yeah.
But I think we were focused more on the ending, where somebody just handed them the contract, and not all the adventures they had in getting there.
Yeah, this is hard work, folks. It really is hard work. And so when somebody says, I jump out at Reddit every once in a while, and somebody says, should I try self-publishing? And I just want to clap back and go, no!
No, to be fair, we have, obviously this is our retirement career. And I say that in all honesty, this is a career. That this is not a hobby at this point. We are serious about what we're doing. And I know, at least when you first retired, I was still working, 8 to 5. JT was a little adrift and not quite sure what to do. And at that point, you were kind of just puttering along, and it was more of a hobby.
Yeah, and then we found Atticus.
Atticus has been a game changer. It's been amazing.
Yeah, Atticus, and then it changed really. It just changed our retirement life. And so,
yes.
We're going to go and wind this up. We will say, though, that since we mentioned Atticus, that was not a paid promotion. We don't do paid promotions, so we just need to say that real quick. So this is going to be a short one. We're just about done. So again, what happened to ZOEY? Well, real life happened to ZOEY, but real life always happens. Got feedback for that, complex and thoughtful and necessary feedback that needs to be incorporated to improve ZOEY as a book, as an experience. And then finally, certainly the overambitious release schedule came back and bit us in the butt for all intents and purposes. And so that's what happened to ZOEY.
Yep.
So
basically, ZOEY is still alive.
ZOEY's still alive. ZOEY will still happen.
Soon.
I don't know when the cover reveal will be. I don't know when the book release will be. And, here come the holidays. So lots of things are going to be happening in everybody's lives. But, as soon as I know, y'all will know. So we'll go from there. How's that sound?
Well, and I think if you're following along, hopefully this discussion has been a little tantalizing and that you are interested in finally reading ZOEY when it comes out. And I think all of the products that we put out, we're doing our best. We're trying to make them the best things we can. I think they're all entertaining. And at this point in time, we haven't gotten a lot of love yet, but we are working on a lot of that. I think is just basically because the market is so saturated and we haven't found our readers yet. So hopefully, if you're watching this, you may consider one of our books and become one of our readers, and we would love to have you join us on this adventure.
Yeah. And as we keep saying, we're going to keep throwing bottles in the water, and eventually, or we keep swinging for the fences as a baseball thing, and eventually something's going to happen. Baseball. But anyway, I think we've belabored the point. So we'll be back on Sunday at our regular bat time, a regular bat channel with another podcast, another award-winning podcast that will help writers write, because that's what we want to do. We want to help writers write. And again, we hope that through our adventures, we hope that we improve your adventures. Is there anything else you want to add real quick?
Well, I think on our Sunday podcast, you might want to tune in that we will be discussing Nevada and Nevada Day.
Yep.
It goes along with ZOEY and with the sheriff books because obviously we do live in Nevada. We do love Nevada. And Nevada Day weekend is coming up. So there are a lot of fun activities going on around us. So that's what we'll be discussing on Sunday.
Yep. Hopefully we'll have some pretty pictures for you from Saturday with the big parade. Okay. So sitting over there is Cece.
And over there is JT.
We hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week. And we'll see you Sunday at the regular podcast schedule. Until then, y'all take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.